Welcome to the Late Night Gamecock Show from Chief Sports, South Carolina. Here are your hosts, Matt Anderson and Alex Jones of thebigspur.com.
Well, Alex, it is another week, another tough loss for the Gamecocks. I think that all of Gamecock Nation is trying to recover if they can, but it's one of those games where you feel like you had victory just ripped out of your mouth. What's your thoughts really quick on what happened in Alabama? And we're not going to spend too much time on it, but go ahead.
Yeah, we covered a lot of it Sunday night on Rooster Rant, but, I think it's just one of those games where it's kind of like that LSU game where South kind of had the lead late or had opportunity to win the game late and just couldn't finish, and some self-inflicted thing kind of allowed you to lose that game. And if you don't have those two things, South Carolina may be sitting here at 5-1, but, I think there is still a lot of positives to take away from that game, though, and I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit of those here tonight.
Yeah, it's tough, Alex, because in the preseason, you and I both made predictions on the season. And look, when you're on a Gamecock show, a lot of times you're saying, okay, well, how could this break right for the Gamecocks? And I think both of us were 5-1 through 6 games. And there might have been a little bit of break right, but at the end of the day, hey, it should have broken right. We weren't too far off.
Right, yeah. You think back to the LSU game, you get off to the good start, and then penalties and other things happen that you couldn't find a way to win that game. And then the Alabama one, you survived some early punches from Alabama, found a way to battle yourself back into the game, have a lead, have some opportunities late in that game to kind of maybe put it away, but things just didn't bounce your way. And key for this week for South Carolina is to flush that loss and find a way to move on and get ready for Oklahoma now.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. I think it's frustrating for media people, but it's also frustrating for Gamecock fans to just keep saying flush the loss, flush the loss, flush the loss. But unfortunately, in college football, that's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got to, because South Carolina. Yeah, I was saying you're not at a point where you got to you can't let it beat you twice, and that's we see it a lot of times, not at South Carolina really, but at a bunch of other schools where a game beats you twice. So just got to find a way to see what you can take kind of those positives away from it and build on those, and hopefully taking those away can help you win the next one.
I think the biggest thing that I can take away right now, Alex, is just it is ridiculous what these players are experiencing on social media. I don't know why anybody feels the need to do that, but we have plenty of Gamecock fans, and it's not just Gamecock fans. This is a bigger issue in college football and also NFL, professional sport, college basketball, whatever. But sometimes I think how would your mom feel if she read what you just sent to a college athlete, or how would your dad feel? And the stuff that's getting sent is just off the chains.
Yeah, I guess in this day and age of social media, you're seeing a whole lot more of that, and honestly, there's no place for it. I don't know the people who send those tweets and stuff. I don't know really what you gain from that, and it's just really just no place for it at all.
I really do think that if you just typed it out and just put it on the side until the next morning, you might wake up and be like, "What the heck was I thinking?" But yeah. Anyway, it doesn't seem to be working right now in Gamecock land, and I get that. I get it. But let's go ahead and close out this Alabama game. Alex, you were in Tuscaloosa. What was your take on Lenore seeing the field? Obviously, he made plenty of plays, 21 of whatever, and just looked like he found open guys. Was it? What was your take, I guess is the best way to ask that.
Yeah, I think when you look at his performance, obviously the fumbles kind of paint the picture and maybe take down his performance because, those were critical fumbles. And, the self-inflicted stuff, we talked about, you're going to see some of those just with a redshirt freshman quarterback playing. You're going to have to go through some of these growing pains. I think the turnovers and stuff have been a little bit too much. They've got to find a way to trim down on those, especially being how key they were. But, I thought, looking back and watching, the game over again, like he had a lot of really good plays in that game. And I don't think South Carolina's in that game without Lenora Sellers. I mean, he made some really nice throws. When he had a clean pocket, I think he was standing in there and stepping into the throws. And, some that throw to Mazio Bennett, it looks wide open and it wide open, but that's still not an easy throw to make. You still got, that was a dot that he threw to him, and it can be, hard to throw to wide open receivers just because you have to think about it. But that was a dot to Mazio Bennett, and then he had a really good third down pass, third and long pass to Mazio Bennett. So, I think the fumbles have to stop, and that he's got to continue to improve ball security. But I think with Lenoris, and I think they kind of know this, that there's a lot to build on. Good for what he did in that game.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot about Lenora Sellers here coming up. I have some statistics that I think are kind of eye-opening, and Alex, you're already aware of them, but it's something that we'll talk about a little bit later. But as far as play calling in this game, I thought Dowell Loggins probably got like a 93%. He did a really good job, but like that 7% where he didn't get a perfect score, like those actually really hurt the Gamecocks in a lot of ways. What was your take on Dowell Loggins and what he was able to kind of scheme up against Alabama?
Yeah, I thought the game plan and game play calling was, night and day from what you saw against Ole Miss. I think you go into a game and really at every coordinator and every position or every sport, there's going to be play calls that you want back. And, I thought there was a little bit more creativity in this game with what they did with some of the motion stuff. Like, I thought the play that they ran with Gage Lardane, that little triple option look, I thought that was a great play and something now that offense or defense is going to have to account for, and I think that can help open up some of the inside zone stuff. So, I thought it was improved. Are there things that they can continue to get better on in that aspect? Absolutely. Like they can still improve in their play calling and game plan and stuff. But I thought you can at least acknowledge that it was an improved game plan, and obviously some play calls you want back, but I thought there was some improvement there.
Well, and just the fact that the Gamecocks pretty much started like deep in Alabama's territory on every single start of a drive. Yeah. I thought that, God, I said Alabama was going to win like 42-3 or 38-7. Like, I didn't see this game plan coming, and I think it's very positive when you look at where the Gamecocks have come so far through this season. We're 6 games in, Alex, and the 3 losses are to number 7, 8, and 18 in the country, I think. So, like, South Carolina is a good team, despite what people want to say. And, I think about Ole Miss and that particular game. And I actually had this conversation with my brother earlier today. You have the LSU game. You lose by 3 points. You have the Alabama game on the road. You lose by 2 points. And you have the Ole Miss game. And I think a lot of people want to focus on the Ole Miss game, but there were 11 times a player fell down in that game. And 7 of those times a player fell down turned into a media timeout. If I have to kind of blame Shane for anything, I think it's just do what Lane does. Like, if you need a timeout, do that, because every single time the Gamecocks got positive momentum in that game, it ended up with an Ole Miss player on the ground. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't hate the player. I don't hate the game. I hate the player. Almost, it's allowed, and that's what happens. But I think the Gamecocks have already gone through the toughest part of their schedule. As weird as that sounds, what are your thoughts there, Alex?
Yeah, I think you have. I think now you enter an Oklahoma game that I'm sure we're going to talk about here in just a minute, but there's some areas that I think South Carolina can have some success in this game. Then you have the bye week, and then you have Texas A&M and Missouri, which is probably, I hate to say it's the 2 biggest games of the year because you can say that before every game, but that's a key stretch right there for what this season's going to look like. And really, you can throw in this Oklahoma game as well. But, Texas A&M maybe a little bit better than we thought from what we saw in the preseason. Obviously, they got off to a great start so far in SEC play. And then Missouri, I think maybe you could say is, from what you thought in the preseason, maybe a little bit more winnable just because their offense really hasn't gotten going yet. They've kind of struggled to get going, but at the same, in the defensively, they lost a lot, and I think they're still trying to figure stuff out on that side of the ball. But, they have a lot of good players on that side on offense that, maybe they find a way to get it going. And then, then you got the Wofford and Clemson game, or excuse me, you got Vanderbilt and Wofford and Clemson in there too. So, I think these next 3 games are crucial to what South Carolina season is going to be, because I still think they still have a lot in front of them, what they can accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to a friend of mine who's somewhat connected to college football today, and he said, Matt, if you're South Carolina and you're 3-3 so far through this gauntlet, like, you got a road win against Kentucky and you lost every game you probably should have lost. But at the same time, there were 2 games that you probably could have won. To your point earlier, Alex, you could be 5-1. And I think if it was 5-1 right now, like, Gamecock fans would not be saying what they are right now. But we've talked that to death. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about Lenore Sellers. Like, Lenore Sellers is going to be really good, and I don't understand why people are just straight up chastising this kid. Like, it's almost ridiculous what I'm seeing. So, Alex, you've already heard this, so I just want to go through each of these statistics one by one, and then I want to get your take on it, and then obviously the take from our watchers and listeners. But I chose to compare Lenore Sellers, Spencer Rattler, and Connor Shaw's first 5 starts of their college seasons at South Carolina. And I chose these 3 players because, Connor Shaw, Spencer Rattler, 2 of the 5 best players to ever, wear the garnet and black and play quarterback. I think at this point, Alex, you'd probably agree. Lenore Sellers and Spencer Rattler kind of got dealt hands that Connor Shaw did not. But at the same time, you only have 5 starts. So let's actually look at it. So Connor Shaw was a redshirt freshman. Obviously, Lenore Sellers, redshirt freshman. Spencer Rattler was a redshirt junior. So just here are the numbers. Connor Shaw was 4-1 as a starter in his first 5 games. Spencer Rattler 3-2, and Sellers obviously is 2-3. SEC games started. Shaw has 4 of those. Sellers has 4 of them. Rattler has 2. Passing stats. Rattler has 151 attempts. Shaw 119. Sellers 116. Completion percentage, Rattler was 64.9%, Shaw was 63%, and Sellers was 62%. So just off the cuff there, before we go any further, Alex, I'd love to kind of get your take on where do you think Sellers rates according to those guys playing 4 SEC teams without Steve Spurrier?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we talked about with the turnover stuff. I think the fumbles, the interceptions don't kind of paints the picture that, and that's the key part of the game. So we can't take that out. Like, that does have to improve. But I think when you look at it, you see the potential that he can be up there with those 2 guys in the long run. Obviously maybe not this year, because there's still so much developing, but just from those stats right there, you can see there's still, I know we got some more similarities to see, but you're starting to see there are some similarities between these 3.
Yeah, and go a little bit further, passing yards per passing attempt. Rattler was 7.4 yards, Sellers 6.8, Connor Shaw 5.9. Passing touchdowns, Shaw 6, Sellers 4, Rattler 4. Passes that ended a touchdown, Shaw was 5%, Sellers 3.4, Rattler 2.6. Interceptions, Sellers 4, Shaw 4. Rattler had 7 interceptions in his first 5 games, and I think people forget that. Yeah. Interception percentage, Sellers 3.4%, Shaw 3.4%, Rattler 4.6%. The rushing stats are what's actually kind of crazy to me, Alex. Sellers has 219 yards rushing, Connor Shaw 184. Rattler only had 9. That is a lot of sacks that he was taking, but still.
Yeah. Obviously, and you can compare Sellers and Shaw in that more, just because those 2 were more runners than Rattler was. Rattler really wasn't a runner, but he had a whole bunch of offensive line issues those first 2 years, so I'm sure that number is even lower than it probably was, just because of the sack yardage.
Well, this is weird too, because I looked at rushing touchdowns. Sellers has 3, Shaw has 3, Rattler had 1. Fumbles, Shaw had 1, Rattler had 4, and what you talked about earlier, Alex, Sellers has 7. But what's interesting to me was fumbles lost. I dug deep, man. It was hard to find the game by game stuff with Shaw over 10 years ago, but I can confirm that Shaw had 1 fumble and at least 1 fumble lost. Rattler had a fumble lost. Sellers has 4. But what actually caught my eye was when you look at turnovers and touchdowns, Shaw had 5 total turnovers. Rattler and Sellers have 8, obviously through 5 games. But total touchdowns, Shaw had 9, Sellers had 7, and Rattler only had 5. Like, I look at this and I just think about like reps and getting an opportunity to play. Like, Sellers hasn't had that in the games that he's played. It's all been against SEC competition.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. It takes time, especially with a redshirt freshman quarterback. And do you want to see the issues he's had with the ball security? No, you don't. But I think that's part of the growing pains. And, with these Rattler numbers, you think about it, he had that experience and got off to kind of a slow start, and you saw how he finished, be it at the end of that year, the 2022 season, then the 2023. So it's just, you got to hang with it. I think if you're a South Carolina fan, just hang with it. You can obviously see when you watch Norris Sellers, like, it's there. Like, the potential is absolutely there for him to, be a really, really good quarterback. It's just, I think it's just a point of just hanging with it at this point and finding, building off the positives that he can. And I know Shane Beamer and Dow Loggins and those guys are doing that.
Yeah, and I think too, like, and I'm going to get probably ripped across the coals for this. And I think I said it on Sunday night as well, but like, this is one of those seasons, whether good, bad, or indifferent. I know nobody wants to waste the defense that the Gamecocks have this year, but it's almost one of those years where whether Dowell's here long-term, Shane's here long-term, Lenore's here long-term, like, these are the moments and the losses that turn into wins 2 years from now, a year from now. And I don't know what to say after that, Alex, but like, you can't go back and get a win, but I think that all the reps Lenoris has taken means that Gamecocks are probably going to win their fair share the rest of the way.
Yeah, like, he's going to learn from these mistakes, and you don't want the mistakes to happen, but you have to think that he's learning from them, and they're helping him get past those mistakes, which are only going to make him better in the future.
Yeah. I can't disagree with you at all. I think, the Kyle Kennard stuff, like, oh my gosh, like, he is just a man on a mission. Yeah. One of the most fun defensive players I've seen play at South Carolina. Like, and I love Jadavion, and he made great moments, but like, one of my buddies is Eric Norwood, and he kind of reminds me of Eric Norwood, just always in the backfield doing something to disrupt something. Do you think he's going to break the sack record, Alex?
I mean, if he stays on track, I think he's got a really good chance, which is kind of crazy to think about, that he could, potentially do that and be at South Carolina for 1 year and have his name up in Williams-Brice Stadium for, a sack record. So, and when you think about that, when you think about, what South Carolina's going to have to do in the transfer portal, that they'll have quite something to sell in the transfer portal to edge guys to say, hey, Kyle Kennard came in here and had a season where he saw his draft stock rise, and there's his name right there up in Williams-Brice Stadium. So, and then plus you got Dylan Stewart on the other side of you. So, I think.
I think it just gives Dylan ammunition to say, I want to take Kyle Kennard's name off the rafters.
And to Dylan Stewart's point right there, like, he's not getting enough. Like, his stats don't do justice for how disruptive he's been so far. Like, I think that a lot of that is like, he's always he's a lot of times he's the one who's forcing the pressure. That's where somebody else is going to get the sack because of the pressure that Dylan Stewart forced. So, I mean, he's lived up to that 5-star reputation and even more so far, and I don't expect him to slow down.
No, I don't either. I don't either at all. Alex, so like, just last couple thoughts on this. 3 losses, all the top 18 teams in the country. Alex, you might know this better than me, but are there any teams outside of Clemson that's ranked top 18 in the country the Gamecocks have to face the rest of the way?
You said ranked outside or ranked inside the top? Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, either or. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like the majority of the last 6 games are teams ranked outside of the top 18.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what A&M is, but I mean, they'll be right there. Like, it's like you kind of mentioned earlier. I think they've gotten through the biggest gauntlet on the schedule. Obviously, it's not going to get any easier. I mean, it's always tough in the SEC, and that's no different this year because every game is a game where anybody can beat anybody anytime. And then now you have Vanderbilt, who, I mean, has taken off and is obviously a much bigger test in Nashville than he thought it'd be in the preseason.
No, I agree with you. we'll see where the Gamecocks go, but we're going to take a quick sponsor break. And when we come back, we're going to talk all about Oklahoma, talk a little bit about basketball, and then we'll give our best bet. So stick with us. Enjoy all of you spending your time with us tonight.
Oh, man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
The electric grid that had been placed under Lambda so that the field would never freeze.
Those two things are all the NCAA has. That's all they have. They're not worth anything without the men's basketball tournament and now the women's tournament.
Listen to these interviews and more on the JC and Morgan podcast by downloading the Chief Sports app. Part of the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does nationally recognized the Barndominium Company, where they are building dream homes in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee. Their turnkey process can be custom designed and takes 6 months on average. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. Thebarndominiumco.com. Gamecock owned and operated.
Morning, Carl. Usual?
Yeah.
Your oldest was in here the other day. Said the two of you took a trip down to my neck of the woods. How'd that go?
You might as well give me one of those Carolina cars while you're at it.
I knew I liked that one.
Yeah.
There you go, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, Carl. Congratulations.
See you tomorrow, Freddie.
You bet.
Well, Alex, it is time for us to turn our attention to Oklahoma. I know that you've already dug into this a little bit, but I did a little research of my own. Alex, I'm not going to leave you hanging here. Right now, it looks like it is going to be a 21-18 type ball game. Right now, Oklahoma's favored by 3. But such a low over-under number, Alex. Do you think that's realistic?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. It is two really good defenses going up against each other and two offenses who, for the most part have still trying to figure things out. And, I wasn't surprised to see that over-under. I maybe was a little bit surprised at the spread for Oklahoma to be 3. I was thinking maybe in that 4 to 5 range, but, we'll jump in here to what we've seen from Oklahoma and what we think, but I think there's some areas South Carolina can have some success in this game.
Yeah, I mean, with being a game at Oklahoma, I think that you look and Oklahoma has who do they have next week, Alex? I looked it up earlier, but it's a big game. Coming off a tough loss to their rival Texas in a game where they took an early lead and then just got blown out from there. Oklahoma's offense hasn't been anything to, write home about, but their defense really hasn't either. It's almost just one of those things where every game is a bit low scoring, especially for Oklahoma. I did the math earlier, and I think that Oklahoma is averaging a touchdown or averaging 7 points, I should say, for every 114 yards that they gain, whether through the air or on the ground. Doesn't help that South Carolina is averaging 7 points for every 107 yards that they get through the air or the ground. Like, this just screams a game that's low scoring, but at the same time, South Carolina's averaged over 25 points a game in SEC play, and Oklahoma's averaged 15. So something's going to have to break here, Alex. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, when you look at Oklahoma's offense, they obviously the biggest question for them is just their health. For one, wide receiver, they're missing like their top 5 guys, and I think maybe Deion Burks, who is one of those top guys, could be coming back this week. But I mean, they still are dealing with a lot of injuries. Then you got the quarterback situation with Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins, which it looks like Michael Hawkins, I think he's a freshman coming in, is going to start. So, and I think one of the areas South Carolina can have some success in this game is, on the defensive line. I think they can win. There's good chances for them to cause some pressure because Oklahoma's offensive line has had their issues in this game. And, South Carolina has gone up against some of the best offensive lines in the country and have found ways to get pressure. So I think on the defensive side of the ball, that's where the key kind of is for this game is, can South Carolina continue to get pressure and just not let Oklahoma get much going passing game and run game.
Yeah, and I did the math earlier, and Lenore Sellers right now is getting sacked on 20% of his dropbacks. That is something that's crazy. I mean, he's gotten sacked 20 times, and he's only played, 5.5 quarters, something like that, maybe less, maybe not 5.5 quarters, but 5.5 games, 4.5 games. You know what I mean?
So,
But anyway, Oklahoma has given up 20 sacks on the season as well on their offensive line. And, I know that Brett Venables is going to dial up pressure. Absolutely. This is one of those games where I hope that South Carolina can get Lenore Sellers outside of the pocket a little bit. But if they can't stop the bull rush up the middle, Lenore's has nowhere to go. So my question to you, Alex, is over under between the two teams, 7.5 sacks.
Oh man. I would have said 7 probably. I'll go over, I think.
All right. So
I can see it being 7 to 8, honestly. I could see it being in that range.
Yeah, so you go over, and it's how many times does Lenore Sellers take a sack? And is it a coverage sack? Is it a just pure bull rush sack? I don't know, but the Gamecocks are going to have to do exactly what they did at Alabama last week. I think that, the Arnold kid's a pretty good quarterback for Oklahoma as far as running the ball, but I don't think he's, Milroe. So I think that if there's anything that helps the Gamecocks this week, it's you just prepped for Oklahoma all week against Alabama.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a Ryan Williams on the outside that's going to scare you. And look, Oklahoma does not have the talent that Alabama does. I'll be honest, Alex, I think this is a game that the Gamecocks can win and probably should win.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to your point right there, the secondary really all year has been pretty good for the most part. I think we're starting to see Judge Collier really come into his own. He's made some really good plays and has really made that jump from freshman to sophomore year. And I think O'Donnell Fortune's taken a step too. That interception he had in that Alabama game, that was a pretty incredible play just for how far he had to go to get to that ball. But so I think, with Oklahoma's injuries at wideout, you wonder, can South Carolina win that battle on the perimeter? Because, if you can, South Carolina's defensive line, has a chance to get pressure, but then if they're, the secondary is not allowing Oklahoma's receivers to get open, that's just going to make it, not as hard for South Carolina to get after the quarterback. So I think it's going to be a line of scrimmage game, just like it is in every game, just because, I think South Carolina also has to find ways to protect Lenore Sellers, just with, as you mentioned, the pressure that's probably coming from Brent Venables' defense.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure's going to come, and we don't have to be the people that say, "Hey, Brent Venables blitzes." Everybody knows that. Shane knows that. The offensive coaching staff knows that. But I do think that South Carolina's defense is better than Oklahoma's. And look, I don't want to sound like a homer. We do a South Carolina show, but I think that the way that Shane has coached these players over the past 3 years and what South Carolina is showing right now, I do think they're better than Oklahoma. So, Alex, I think it's time for predictions. I think you know where I'm going, but do you want to go first? Would you rather me go first?
No, I'll go. I don't think I've gone first yet this season, so I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I think South Carolina is going to win this game. I think the offense, you started to really see, especially in a few of those drives against Alabama, I think you started to see maybe a little bit of an identity starting to come out. key is going to be protecting the ball. Don't have self-inflicted penalties, or self-inflicted mistakes, just like in any game. I think South Carolina's defense has a chance to be really good in this game, just from what we've seen from Oklahoma's offense. The key is going to be just kind of weathering the storm early. It's going to be, obviously another good environment there. South Carolina, I think that's something we haven't talked about in the Alabama game, but I think South Carolina did really well in that regard at Alabama, was kind of weathering that environment and absorbing the punch. So in the end, I think it's going to be a game that's close for a little while, but South Carolina finds a way to pull out a 27-20 win.
27-20. Okay. I'm around there. I think that the Gamecock offense is going to show up a little bit. I don't want to say more than you think, because that's not fair, but I think that 31 for South Carolina seems doable. I do think that Alex Herrera needs to get back out there and kick a field goal. And look, I don't have a problem with Alex kicking a 40-plus yard field goal. Like, at some point, he's going to have to do it, whether it's against Oklahoma or it's later in the season. And I hate the fact that he's had 2 heartbreaking moments, but I'm going to go South Carolina 31. And God, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say Oklahoma 18. I think that the Gamecocks are going to find a way to stifle them, and a lot of field goals for Oklahoma. I think they're going to take the points when they have the opportunity. And it's going to be a 31-18 game. So I'm saying South Carolina minus 13. It's so hard to say, Alex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, real quick, I want to kind of get your take on this. I think it feels like South Carolina is close to – I wonder how close they are to putting that complete game together, and can it be this game? Because they haven't put that complete game together yet, but you wonder if it's coming just from kind of what we saw from the offense and the potential that's there. You can't have those turnovers, cannot turn it four times in a game and win, but you wonder if maybe is this a game they can do that, or if I just wonder how close they are to kind of putting it together.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I think that, this is really like Sellers' 5th game, starting, and it's going to be on the road, but he just tasted one of the toughest home environments in the country at Alabama. So I have a lot of faith in Lenore Sellers. I have a lot of faith in this team, and I think that, they're tougher than our fans are sometimes. So.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be a really tough environment, and Oklahoma's one of the more storied programs, great tradition. Lenore's is not just Lenore's, but the whole team is going to have to find a way to absorb those punches, because it's going to come from obviously Oklahoma's coming off that Texas loss. They want to come out and make a statement, so you're going to have to kind of weather that storm early, and going to see if South Carolina can do that.
Well, it's one of those things, actually, Alex, that I said on the Big Spur the other day. Like, everyone gets mad when the Gamecocks face a team that just came off a bad loss. And sometimes that bad loss actually turns into 2 losses or 3 losses or 4 losses. We've seen that in college football since the beginning of time. And I wonder if this is that moment for Oklahoma. Look, both teams have to stand up. They got to stand on business this upcoming week, and we'll see who does it. I like the Gamecocks' chances, though. Alex, real quick, let's talk a little bit of basketball before we move on to our best bets of the week. I know that the women's team was voted number 1 in the country in the preseason poll. I think you and I both predicted that.
Yeah.
They just seem to be running amok on the rest of the women's basketball programs in the country. Were you surprised by that? And, what's your take on women's basketball going forward?
No, was not surprised to see South Carolina show up at number 1 today. It's Dawn Staley's built an incredible program, and it's not really going anywhere. They continue to recruit like crazy at top level, and they got a lot of players returning from last year's team that won the national championship. So not surprised at all to see South Carolina ranked number 1, and fans can get their first look at South Carolina tonight, because they have an exhibition against Memphis tonight at 9:30.
Yeah, so moving on to men's, Alex, I think the Gamecocks were predicted to finish 11th in the SEC according to SEC media. Not surprised by that. SEC media doesn't seem to give Lamont Paris any credit. Were you surprised by that potential rating?
No, I think we kind of talked about it maybe last week or whenever we talked a little bit of basketball. Was not surprised to see that, just because I think that's how South Carolina wants, or Lamont Paris wants it too. They fed off of that last year, being picked last and just having that chip on their shoulder. So I don't think they mind being in that spot at all. And, I think you can see where that narrative is coming just because South Carolina lost, Michie Johnson, Talon Cooper, BJ Mack, who are key parts of that team. But South Carolina, I think when you look at it, they got a chance again to be really good this year with some of the talent they have returning. And, we'll find out soon here, but, wasn't too surprised to see South Carolina picked in that spot.
Yeah, and we're going to talk so much college basketball coming up, but I did want all of our listeners and our viewers to know where the Gamecocks were picked in SEC Media Days. And look, keep paying attention over the course of the week. You're going to hear from all of these SEC coaches, and the press conferences are always fun. There are always some weird questions that get asked. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our best bets segment. Going to last week, Alex, you were 16-14. I was 16, 13, and 1. And you went 4-1, so Alex is kind of regaining his swagger.
That's what
I
I'm
went
talking about.
2-3. So Alex is 20-15 on the season. If you've been following him, you would have made money so far. If you're following me, you'd be just trying to stay above water, but you wouldn't be losing money. I'm 18, 16, and 1. So, Alex, do you have your best bets ready?
I do. You want me to go first?
Yeah, why don't you go first?
All right.
I want to make sure.
First one I have is the Georgia-Texas game. Over-under is 55.5, and I kind of battled on this one. I'm going to take the under, though.
Okay, so under 55.5.
Yeah.
Texas, Bama. All right.
Texas, Georgia.
Texas, Georgia. Yeah, that game hasn't happened yet. All right, so under 55.5. Look, I actually do like that a lot, Alex, because this is Texas's first real SEC Titan matchup. And there's going to be a lot of pressure coming in. And I think Georgia really does like to look, Georgia's kind of like Kentucky at this point. Like, just get in my spider web and we'll go ahead and beat you. I did pick a similar game. The exact same game. And I took Georgia plus the 3.5.
Mm.
I like that 3.5 point hook.
Yeah, when I was looking at that, it was either going to be that or the over/under, and I went with the over/under. So, I
love that.
And I just think with Georgia, they have not struggled, but maybe the defense just hadn't been up to par for what a normal Georgia defense is, and I just wonder if Kirby Smart's going to have that thing figured out this weekend, be it that it's a big game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And that's actually interesting. When you looked at it, you probably looked at it earlier in the day, that line has actually moved up to 56.5. So I know that you like your spot right now at under 55.5.
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, so I'll go next, and I am going to talk about the Alabama-Tennessee game. This game is an over-under when I looked at it at Tennessee +3, so Bama -3 at Tennessee. Over under 56.5. And I took Bama -3. I think that Bama's had their wake up calls. And like when Bama gets the ball, they score. And I'm on Bama -3.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. I'm interested to see what Tennessee's offense looks like in this one. They have struggled a little bit these past two games. And, I think Alabama – just kind of what you mentioned with those wake-up calls, you wonder how they're going to come out in this one.
All right, so what's your next pick, Alex?
The next one I have is Illinois wins outright over Michigan. Illinois is a 3-point underdog, but Illinois is going to win outright.
All right, so Illinois money line. That is not a game that I even thought about. I don't think that Michigan is the best offensive team in the country. I think that you're getting some pretty positive expected value there on that game. And look, I know a lot of Michigan fans that are like completely angry and like really mad about Michigan right now. So I don't hate that one. What's your next one?
Probably could have taken the under on that one too. I didn't even look at that.
What is the under?
I'm about to go look to see because I didn't look.
I might actually have it. 1 second. Is Michigan still ranked? The over-under I'm seeing is 43.5.
Oh, wow. Never
I don't
mind.
know if I take that under.
No, never mind. Disregard that.
Disregard
That's kind of goes with where I was thinking of that game. Like just two offenses that, or no, I think Michigan. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's going to be a lot of points scored in that one.
Yeah. So what's your next one?
Next one I have is Missouri covers a 4.5 point spread over Auburn.
Ooh, minus 4.5. Okay.
I can see that being a touchdown though. Like I don't think it's going to be like a big cover.
Well, we are actually very conflicted right now, Alex, because I have Auburn plus 4.5, and I don't really have a reason for it other than that's just like a really weird line. Like plus 4.5 at Auburn, or I'm sorry, at Missouri. And somebody knows something that I don't know. And when something smells fishy, I just kind of follow the fish.
Yeah, I kind of wondered that myself. And I don't know, with Auburn's quarterback situation, they've had some turnover issues themselves. Like, Missouri, maybe the defense isn't as good as it has been, but I just feel like there's going to be a few critical turnovers in that game.
No, I mean, I don't hate that at all. And I don't love my Auburn plus 4.5 pick. Like I said, it's just weird. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take the weird thing.
Yeah.
So my next one is actually, I'd like to get your take on this. I'm taking LSU minus 2.5 at Arkansas. The over-under is 55.5.
You said LSU?
LSU minus 2.5.
Yeah, I looked at that one as well, and I was close to. If we were doing like 6 picks, that would have been in the next one. I probably would have done the same thing too. Like, I think you could also maybe take the over in that game.
Yeah, I don't think Arkansas is going to quit. I've said that all season long, but I just think that LSU has gone through a gauntlet. Lost that game to Southern Cal. They obviously beat South Carolina, and then they beat Ole Miss at home. The game's at Arkansas, which I think is why LSU is a 2.5 point underdog. This is another one that's fishy to me. I think that LSU should be more than a 2.5 point favorite, but give me LSU winning by a field goal at worst, and I'm going to take that every single day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I could absolutely see it. All right, so next one I have is Oregon wins, but Purdue covers 27.5 point spread.
Okay, so Purdue plus 27.5.
Yeah, Oregon coming off the big win. I think they win this game. Like it's a close, but I think they win by like 24 or so. It's one of those games where it feels like it could be a little bit of a sleeper game, just from a stance of again, like Oregon coming off that win and then playing Purdue, who's been a team that's kind of struggled so far.
So I mean, I looked at it and like I think this is an Alex Jones Mississippi State special, like the same way you won that game last week.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I have not been a believer in Oregon this entire season, and I know that they just beat Ohio State. If it was 28.5, I'd probably be right there with you, but it's a stay away game for me. But look, you're crushing Vegas right now, so I believe anything you have to say. My last one is the Virginia Clemson game. I think that Virginia knows a little bit about Clemson. It's at Clemson. I'm taking the hook. Clemson is a 21.5 point favorite. Give me Virginia plus 21.5. The over under that game is 57.5. I've seen Clemson cover, but not look good covering, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really. What time is that game? Do we know? Do you have it on hand?
1 second, let me pull it up. I think it's early in the day. Actually.
It's
a 12 noon kickoff in Clemson.
Okay, yeah, that's one where you're seeing Clemson's offense maybe finding ways to put it together. I'm just interested to see in that if they can continue that. And Virginia's kind of could be a team maybe that could sneak up on you, so I think it could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean Virginia's 4-2. I feel like they've played a somewhat difficult schedule, but look, I'm just taking the hook there. Maybe Clemson rests their starters. I think Clemson's going to win, obviously, but still interesting. All right, Alex, what's your last pick?
All right, the last one that I have is, let me pull it up right here, make sure I had it right. All right, Boston College. They are going to Virginia Tech this weekend. They are a 7-point underdog in against Virginia Tech. They're going to win outright, though.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Jones. I like it. It's
We're
very saucy.
going to end strong on that one. I like Boston College. I think Bill O'Brien's doing a pretty good job there. I don't know about Virginia Tech. I think they're still figuring some things out, and just feels like a game Boston College could find a way to sneak out of there with a win.
Well, Illinois and Boston College money lines, very, very saucy, Mr. Jones. Wow. I think. I'm not going to.
I think if I get both of those right, I deserve. If I get both of those right, I think I deserve extra points.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm going to put a +1 beside both of them. If you win, I'll give you +1 in the standings. But that's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate all of you for listening. When you listen, when you watch, when you hang out with us, you give us the most valuable thing you have, which is your time, and we never take that for granted. So thank you so much for being a part of this show tonight. Please come back next Tuesday and Sunday. So Sunday night, we're going to recap this Oklahoma game. And then Tuesday night, we'll have a show very similar to this. And we thank you so much for being a part of this. And as always, if you're not a member of thebigspur.com, please go ahead and join. They're always running great deals. I think it's like $10 a month if you want to go ahead and pay for an annual membership. It's so much fun. So you can talk Gamecock football, Gamecock basketball, Gamecock baseball, 24/7 year round. So hop on the Big Spur, but we appreciate all of you, and we hope you have a great evening. And with that, Alex, any parting words?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it right there. Stay tuned to Big Spurs. We had men's basketball coverage today with SEC Media Days. John Whittle was there, and always have it all covered. And looking forward to this weekend in South Carolina Oklahoma game.
Yeah, Alex said it best, and we appreciate all of you. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great evening. See y'all later.